Hello, it is Sunday, February 27th, 2022. I'm Chris Remo, and welcome back to the New York Times Crossword Daily Solve. It is a Sunday puzzle today, and I have to say, I'm excited to solve this because I just happened to be browsing the Daily Solve Discord chat server, and I happened to click into the New York Times Crossword channel in the Discord chat server, and I saw a comment by Overfull Hitbox, who is actually a benefactor. Actually, you know what? I'm going to slightly rearrange the order of benefactors today so that I can thank Overfull Hitbox as one of the benefactors. Today's edition of the Daily Solve is brought to you thanks to Joseph Schwalbach, Overfull Hitbox, and, as always, the inestimable Hood Monster. So thank you to the three of them, benefactors of the Daily Solve Patreon campaign. And if you're interested in joining their ranks as benefactors and getting the Daily Solve Let's Check the Crosses mug, as well as this sort of recognition, you can find that at patreon.com/Daily Solve. But of course, backing the Patreon campaign at any level gets you access to all of the all of the bonus videos, bonus solves that have gone up to date, as well as access to an extra channel in the Daily Solve Discord chat server. But tying this all together here, access to the Daily Solve Discord chat server more broadly, not just that extra channel, but the regular access is free to anybody. And it was in that free section of the Daily Solve Discord chat server that I saw this comment from Overfull Hitbox, who said, absolutely jaw-dropping work on the Sunday theme clues. And that makes me very excited to solve this crossword, which is entitled Cinemograms. So it must be something film-related. And don't worry, I've not spoiled myself. People in the Discord are extremely, extremely conscientious about spoiling anything that could be revealing, not just in the New York Times crossword channel, but in the Wordle channel, in the other crosswords and other puzzles channels. So no fear that my early browsing has let me into anything other than that this is likely to be quite an impressive theme. So I'm very excited about that. Anyway, that was quite a lot of preamble, wasn't it? If you remain to the end of the video, there will be some discussion of clues from yesterday's puzzle, the Saturday puzzle, which I found pretty tricky. But for now, let's get on to solving this Sunday crossword. Constructed by Sheldon Polonsky. He's entitled it Cinemograms. This is, I believe, the second New York Times crossword for Sheldon Polonsky. So relative newcomer to at least New York Times puzzle construction. I don't do enormous amount of research on these constructors, so I assume that many of them have published crosswords elsewhere, but his second in the Times, and edited, as always, by Will Shorts. And let's get on with it. By the way, if you're interested in joining the Daily Solve Discord chat server and chatting with other folks and seeing this kind of excited enthusiasm, I suppose, about these sorts of crosswords, you can find a link in the description field underneath each video. Anyway, let's get started. Okay. Items used with pins. Items used with pins. Debit cards? It certainly doesn't look like it fits. ATM cards, perhaps. There we go. You could use an ATM card and use a pin. That works. First courses, informally. It could be appetizers, first courses in a meal. Drudgery could be toil. First black woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. Wanted to say, Toni Morrison. Yes, sorry, that took me longer than it should have, surely. Photographer's tool for short is an SLR, single lens reflex camera. And Sea Captain Robber Thief, 2003. Right. So this is italicized. Often, I haven't actually seen this recently, I don't think. It is relatively common for theme clues to be italicized, to sort of tie them together. Often that will happen. Well, I was going to say sometimes that will happen when there isn't a revealer to tie them all together, but sometimes it is, and the revealer will actually refer to the italicized clues. Anyway, in this case they are, so this will be one of the theme clues, and it says Sea Captain, Robber Thief, 2003. So 2003, and the title of the crossword Cinemograms makes me think this is going to refer to a film that came out in 2003, and it looks like it starts with Pirates. Pirates of the Caribbean? Wow. Okay. So sea captain, robber, thief. What does that mean? Why does that mean Pirates of the Caribbean? Wait a second. Sorry, did I spell this wrong? Are these anagrams? Oh my goodness. I think this is an anagram. That is extraordinary. So now I see what Overfall Hitbox was referring to. This is incredible. So they so Sheldon Polanski has constructed a 21 letter anagram for Pirates of the Caribbean that accurately describes the film in question. Sea captain, robber, thief, because the Captain Jack Sparrow character from the film Pirates of the Caribbean was certainly a sort of thief type of character. That is absolutely incredible. So, wow. I am extremely, I'm very much looking forward to solving the rest of these. Good Lord. When doubled, a dance could be cha cha. Okay. Quick to learn. An apt pupil, quick to learn. Spawn in the sea could be roe, so fish eggs, spawn, roe. Dost thou love life? Benjamin Franklin apparently said that. I don't know that quotation, but I'm guessing it's dost. To dismiss is to poo poo something. I certainly won't be poo pooing the theme of this puzzle. Drove away could be shooed away. And unlike this puzzle, we hoped, well, too easy or too hard, I suppose. Either one of those, one might hope it's not too. I mean, if it's two of something, it's sort of intrinsically not appropriate. So I'm actually not sure which. I'm guessing it's one of those two. Here we have front. And here we have quaint lead into while. Erstwhile would be my starting with an E, but that doesn't fit. Erewhile? Front. I mean, front could be the fore, as in foreground, as opposed to background. One-time dentist's supply. Ether. Right, so it is erewhile. Fair enough. I suppose that's arguably even quainter than erstwhile. So this looks like too hard. Unlike this puzzle, we hope too hard. So it doesn't seem so far that it's going to be too hard. This is a clever theme that isn't so much. It's it's certainly a theme that is. It's displaying, I think, the virtuosity of the constructor as opposed to subjecting the solver to display their own virtuosity of solving, if you see what I mean. So we don't need to unravel some kind of complicated mechanic. We don't need to infer the existence of a rebus cramming several letters into a single cell. It's relatively straightforward. I mean, from the PIR, I was able to guess Pirates of the Caribbean. I wouldn't have remembered it specifically came out in 2003, but thereabouts. But really what's going on here is the extraordinary work. I can't imagine how difficult it must have been to reverse engineer this anagram back from this title in such a perfectly apt way, speaking of things that are apt. So yes, it doesn't seem like this puzzle will be too hard, but it must have been, imagine it would have been too hard for me to construct. That's certainly true. All right, the Baha Men is the group behind Who Let the Dogs Out. Sort of a funny history behind the composition of this song. It's worth searching and reading about the history of the creation of Who Let the Dogs Out, because it's strangely intricate and interwoven and involves a number of competing claims to original authorship, a number of relatively legitimate competing claims to original authorship. So worth seeking out, strangely enough. You wouldn't have thought, but it is worth seeking out the story of the creation of Who Let the Dogs Out by the Baha Men. Or was it by the Baha Men? You'll have to read and find out. One with a password maybe could be a user. Document stamp abbreviation could be received. There's one for the U.S. Census. There's a bureau in the U.S. government that administers the U.S. Census. So that in Spanish would be esa, feminine that. Oh, is it RECD for received? Right. I usually think of received as being RC, VD, but I suppose it's all much of a muchness. Takes it one step at a time could be eases in. Humanitarian organization with Halloween fund drives. I don't know. Does UNICEF do Halloween fund drives? I'm just guessing based on the prefix here, UNI. I think guessing it's UNICEF, but I'll have to remember I wasn't sure about that in case these crosses seem tricky or incorrect. A blimp, e.g., is an airship. So, e.g., meaning the blimp, for example. Not all airships are blimps, but a blimp is an example of an airship. Source of suffering. Not sure. And here we have company with sound financials. So we have a question mark indicating this is a bit of a pun. I think on a Friday or a Saturday, this might not have the question mark to indicate that there's a bit of wordplay because I think, well, I don't know. It's arguable whether you need the question mark here, but I think on a Sunday puzzle, which isn't meant to be incredibly difficult, it's appropriate. Anyway, I think this is Bose. And here we're using sound to mean audio. So a company that manufactures audio equipment as opposed to a company whose financials are in good order, are sound. First name in Harry Potter. Oh boy. Probably not going to try and guess at this because I'll just sit here thinking for too long. A source of suffering, and no, I already looked at that. Ranks could be tiers, as in levels. Would you look at that? Here's one of these exclamation point clues. I don't know, we seem to get about one of these a week, maybe. This usually means, not always, but often the exclamation point means this is describing the answer rather than defining it. It's something you could say in response to or about the answer, as opposed to being a direct synonym or definition. But I don't know offhand, so let's keep going. In a tussle could be at it. They're really at it. They're really in a tussle. Pad thai garnish. Lime often garnishes pad thai, doesn't it? Would you look at that image? Right. So indeed, if this is the answer, which it seems to be, again, would you look at that obviously doesn't define image. If you looked up image in the dictionary, you wouldn't say, would you look at that? It's something you would say about an image. Oh, would you look at that? An image. Believe in it. Oh, this is actually exactly the same. Believe in it, a tenet. This doesn't have the exclamation point this time, but often it ends in a similar way. It ends in that pronoun. So would you look at that being the answer, and tenet, believe in it. So again, this is describing, or not so much describing, but it is said about the answer rather than defining it. A tenet, a pillar of belief. So here we go. Source of suffering is a scourge. It's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? A source of suffering is a scourge. Say that 5 times fast. So first name in Harry Potter. Oh, Albus. I have heard that before. I have heard that name before. Oh, although this looks odd. Oh, no, it doesn't. All the King's Men is a chess set. Sorry. I thought maybe the S was incorrect because we had 3 S's in a row, and that looked a little bit unusual. But of course, it's 2 words. It's a chess set. All the King's Men, referring to the king in chess. Held tightly, clutched or clasped, or what is this? This looks like it does end in life, doesn't it? True fellow is a find. 1946. It's a wonderful life. This is extraordinary. True fellow is a find. So this is, it's slightly less pithy and perfect relative to Sea Captain Robber Thief, but it's still a pretty incredible reassembly of the letters in the film title, It's a Wonderful Life. And I suppose what's going on here, true fellow is a find, it's sort of alluding to the the protagonist is intending to commit suicide near the beginning of the film, and over the course of the film, he learns how much worse off his community and the people around him would be without him there. And so this is suggesting he is, he's a true fellow. He is a rare, and well, I suppose part of the point is that he isn't necessarily rare, is that everybody sort of has this sort of impact on the people around them. But the point is, what a find to have someone who means that to the people around them. And I think that is what this is suggesting. And again, an incredibly clever rearrangement of these letters. I wonder how many film titles the constructor, Sheldon Polanski, had to go through in order to find enough of these to fit in the grid. And then on top of that, especially this one, perfectly filling a standard Sunday 21 width grid. Just really impressive. Anyway, 'tis an blank cook that cannot lick his own fingers. An ill cook. I would think this would be Romeo and Juliet. So we have two. Oh, no, we didn't. No, this wasn't. This was something else. Dost thou love life? But it's not. It wasn't Shakespeare. I thought maybe we had two of those, but not yet. The third of three X's. Oh, tic-tac-toe. That was, this came up, this is, I think, maybe strangely enough, the third, maybe, time this has come up in the past couple of months in the crossword, referring to, in the UK, this would be noughts and crosses, rather than tic-tac-toe, so this clue is going to make less sense. But, oh, no, sorry, it's not tack, it's toe. Tic-tac-toe, the third of three X's. Anyway, I think that's what that means. Word after contact or before cover. Could be lens, contact lens, or lens cover of a camera. With room for interpretation. Loosely? You could say the play was performed loosely with room for interpretation, perhaps. Target with a throw. Target with a throw. Pass to? You could pass a ball to somebody, target them with a throw. 5 exclamation point feeling. It could be awe. You could be in incomplete awe of something. As I sort of am of the construction of these theme answers, it's extraordinary. They're hoppy at happy hour. IPAs, India Pale Ales, which are beers that are high on the hops, very bitter. Crack. Solve a puzzle. We're going to crack this crossword soon enough. Chill out could be to veg out, to vegetate. Opposite of da could be niet, so no in Russian, as opposed to da, yes, in Russian. Oh, here we have another one of these. R.E. Town Fire, One Night, 1974. Probably starts with V. The Towering Inferno. Incredible. Look at this. R.E. Town Fire, One Night. This is The Towering Inferno. I think this film was most famous for being kind of a dud of a film, but having an absolutely stacked cast. I think that's sort of what it was known for. And obviously, it's a given from the name that it involves a fire, and indeed, so does the anagram, R.E. Town Fire, One Night, a night of a towering inferno. Really impressive work here. Out of the park could be gone. Something was knocked out of the park. It was gone out of the arena. If one broke the finish line ribbon in a race, say one won the race. One. The person in question won the race. Each could be per item, each item. Bit of deception. All blank English card game. And release in a way on something. Soul Singer Bridges. I'm not seeing any of these immediately, so I'm just sort of moving on quickly. Oh, held tight is clung on, of course. And what is this? Top. Oh, you could one-up somebody to top them. Leon Bridges, this looks like. Bit of deception. Bit of deception. What was this again? Release in a way. Unpin. Oh, origin of the words club and gun. It must be Norse. Oh, all fours, English card game. Does that work here? A bit of deception. Oh, yes, it could be a put on. And then release is to untie. Soul Singer Bridges is Leon. All right, so got there. Got there in the end. Well, not the end quite yet. Blank on parle français. I suppose this is ici for here. This would mean here we speak French. Ici on parle français. That's a little bit less obvious than some of the French that we tend to get in the New York Times crossword, I would say. It's a lot in London. This probably means... I was going to say... Oh, it is car park. Sorry, yes. So, here in London, I suppose, what in the US would be called a parking lot would be called a car park. So, that's that. School for the college bound could be a prep school, a preparatory school. And game pieces in Mastermind. Pins. Mastermind is that game. It's actually Wordle is sort of a Wordle is sort of an alphabetical equivalent of the game Mastermind, which is a number game in which you must guess a secret code, and then the game indicates which numbers you have correct so far, and you use that to narrow down to get the correct answer. And you do that by putting pins in a board, and in the traditional physical version of the game. Mastermind also has that incredibly iconic and famous cover image of the sort of, I don't know, middle-aged man, I suppose, and younger woman standing behind him, and it sort of implies something about power and sort of shadowy cabals and that kind of thing. And then the two models who posed for that image recreated it decades later. It was really sort of sweet. Okay, paper slips. Question mark. Oh, maybe this isn't pins. I thought pegs. Right. Sorry. They are you'd call them pegs rather than pins. Sorry about that in Mastermind. So paper slips would be errata. So mistakes in an article, something like that. Errata, slips. And so, sorry, the question mark here, this is the pun or wordplay indicator. So we're using slips in this case to mean errors rather than slips of paper per se, physical pieces of paper. Signs in a bookstore, perhaps. Genres. And if one encourages, one stokes a fire, for instance. You could stoke a fire in the towering inferno. The town fire one night, regarding that. Unfinished attic space. Feels as though this is one of those words I sort of vaguely know, but don't use often enough to have it easily accessible. Airborne irritant could be a gnat. Oh, a garret, of course. Yes, sorry. Unfinished attic space, a garret. And what is this? Chicken or cowed? Afraid. Oh, I see. So if you're chicken, you're afraid. And if you're cowed, you've been cowed by something. You're afraid of it. But of course, the little joke here is that chicken and cow are both farm animals. Breed featured in 2009's Hachi, A Dog's Tale. So this must be a film. I suppose an Akita dog. I don't think I know this film, but that must have been what it is. Certain banner fodder. Certain banner fodder. What is that? Didn't ditch could be kept. You didn't ditch something, you kept it. Groundbreaking tool. Not sure offhand. Not interested could be I pass. Recurrent space in the game of life. Recurrent space. What is the game of life? Is the game of life, is this referring to the algorithmic self-replicating game? I don't think so. Is it referring to the board game, the game of life? Probably. I haven't played that. I played that maybe once in my life, and it would have been decades ago. I don't remember what these are. What is this? Evil Streep had a ward. Well, this is surely The Devil Wears Prada, which famously starred Meryl Streep as as a fictionalized version of the infamous longtime editor of American Vogue magazine, whose name Anna Wintour. And I only saw this film actually for the first time last year, I think, within the last 6 months. So, funnily enough, saw it with a friend, my partner and a friend of mine, because we were having a discussion about Stanley Tucci, of all things. Anyway, impose as a fine could be to level a fine. Anyway, sorry. I don't want to let that go without, once again, appreciating how extraordinary this is, that Polanski has turned, he must have noticed that Streep can be the letters to spell Streep can be extracted from The Devil Wears Prada, but then beyond that, to be able to turn the remaining letters into something meaningfully descriptive of the film, which it is. She plays a character who is, I mean, you could say casually, she's evil. She's the sort of boss character that subordinates might describe as evil. and then had awards. She certainly ran an award-winning magazine and was incredibly successful in the context of the film. So it's a perfect description. Evil Streep had award 2006, The Devil Wears Prada. Just amazing work. This really is incredible. Impose as a fine. Oh, levy, to levy a fine. There we go. Best-selling crime novelist Greg. Don't know. Looks like it might be Alan or something like that. No, it's not. Sri Lanka. So maybe is the answer here. So maybe Olson looks right. Addicted could be hooked. You could be hooked on really impressive anagram construction, which is probably a difficult addiction to stoke. Actually, speaking of that, can't imagine these are a dime a dozen. Whoopee could be Yahoo. Adverb in many legal documents. Well, an adverb often ends in ly. Doesn't mean it needs to in this particular case, but it generally does. Adverb in many legal documents. Oh, hereby, actually. Hereby is the sort of adverb that comes up as in, I hereby instruct you. So it's an adverb because it's instead of modifying a noun like an adjective, it modifies a verb like instruct. You are hereby instructed. Tip of the tongue. Not sure. Lead into day or year. Could be yesterday or yesteryear. One seeking a new agreement, perhaps. Could be a striker. You could be on strike, seeking a new employment contract. Certain partners' exchanges could be I do's, and beams could be rays. Pulmicort targets it. I'm not familiar with this drug, but presumably it targets asthma based on the crosses. So let's look at the crosses here. Tip of the tongue, ease. Oh, I see. So tip of the tongue, ease. This is, for instance, speaking, I don't know, you're speaking Japanese, for instance, and many languages have that ease suffix, and you could call that maybe the tip of the word, of the tongue, the language, so to speak. So I think that's what that means. And then here we have, be a paragon of is to embody. I think this crossword is a paragon of incredible anagram construction. It embodies brilliant anagram construction, I will say. Depends on could be leans on. Break-even situation. A wave? Is that referring to wave breaking? I don't think so. Guys that rhyme with girls. Earls, maybe. Suppose that could refer to either the given name Earl or technically the noble title Earl, which less likely, but it's possible. Brand with an eye comfort line. Don't know what that is referring to. Not sure. Less vibrant could be paler. Color is less vibrant, is more pale. Harvard dropouts, maybe. R's. So this is referring to the classic Boston accent that is what, non-rhotic, it drops the R's. Pak the Ka and Harvard Yard is I'm sure I butchered that utterly, but that would be the classical Harvard area, Boston. I suppose there's I guess the Harvard version of that would be the Boston Brahmin accent. There's a great video on YouTube of two very elderly Boston Brahmin men. The Boston Brahmin accent was the sort of upper crust, sort of aristocratic, Northeastern American, Boston-centered accent. It's largely extinct at this point, but there's a great video that was filmed by someone who embarked upon a project of documenting as many different regional American accents as possible of all different classes and geographical areas. And I remember when I lived in Boston for not long, about a year and a half at one point in my life. And I remember stumbling upon that video at the time, and it's incredibly charming. They argue over whether Charles Dickens or Jane Austen is the greatest novelist in the English language. Certain banner fodder could be ads, banner ads, for instance. Oh, so a groundbreaking tool is a spade. There we go. And brand with an eye comfort line. Oh, is it Serta mattress manufacturer, perhaps? Seems plausible. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if these are mattresses you can control with your smartphone or something like that, but I'm not sure. To wallop somebody could be to really paste them. Oh, I see. A break-even situation is a wash, so it's a tie. It's break-even. Here we go. M. Ryan, what's her yell? M. Ryan, what's her yell? Is this Meg Ryan? Oh, When Harry Met Sally. Amazing. So similarly to The Devil Wears Prada, where we spelled Streep, we've spelled, in this case, not just Ryan for Meg Ryan, but M. Ryan in When Harry Met Sally. And actually, isn't this the film with she's having scene where Meg Ryan is acting out a particular moment of ecstasy in a restaurant. So that must be sort of, I think that maybe is what this is referring to. M. Ryan, what's her yell? And When Harry Met Sally. This is just brilliant, I have to say. Aid in putting together a fall collection. A rake. You could be, so obviously this implies a fashion collection, and nice cross there with The Devil Wears Prada, actually. But in fact, it's a bit of misdirection. It's referring to raking a collection of leaves in the fall. Drives the getaway car for, say, could be abets. You could abet a criminal, be the getaway driver. One of the Roys on Succession is Kendall Roy, one of the sons of the patriarch Logan Roy in the excellent, excellent program Succession. So recurrent space in the game of life, it must be payday. There must be a sort of recurring salary space in that game. The Y of YSL, I think this must be Yves Saint Laurent, the fashion designer, actually speaking of fashion again here, adjacent to The Devil Wears Prada. So Yves, Y-V-E-S. And designing is sly. So, yeah, I suppose you have designs. You're scheming. I suppose that's what that is getting at. And a sharp turn is an L, so an L shape, but phonetically spelled out as a word. A slangy SoCal dialect. I was Kendall with an A, it must be. Valley girl? Valley, what is this? Slangy SoCal dialect. I'm not sure. What about this? Puts forth, could be says, straightforward enough. Phone tracking organization could be the NSA, could do phone wiretaps, National Security Agency. What about this? Europe's 3 countries bridge crosses it. Is it the Rhine or the Rhone? Oh, I sometimes get those confused, embarrassingly. I'm gonna find it with crosses. Big name in locks. Could be Yale locks. You see Yale on very many locks, certainly. Okay in Okayama. Could be hi in Japanese for affirmative response, yes. Grain variety. Could be millet, the grain, maybe. What about this? Elf at the North Pole, e.g. A toy maker, I suppose, in Santa's workshop. So what is this? Slangy SoCal dialect. Valspeak. I've never heard this version of referring to that, but this is referring to the valley, the San Fernando Valley, the sort of classical home of, I guess, sort of often portrayed in film and television as sort of a ditzy way of speaking. So I suppose Valspeak. I've never seen this contraction of it, but I think that must be what it is. Alternatives to tablets could be PCs, tablet computers versus PCs, desktop personal computers or laptops. To hand over could be to cede, often with territory, cede territory, hand over territory. To have the lead in. The parenthetical in. Have the lead in. Soar in? Or I don't quite see it. Fried, filled, Filipino fare, an empanada. A sort of like a pasty, I guess. I suppose many cultures have some version of that. Have the lead in. Who might bug you? A spy, actually, the NSA might bug you, phone tracking organization, and then here who might bug you, a spy. So bug, of course, in this case, the question mark indicating a pun and not bug like an insect, but a bug like a tracking device, or a listening device, more accurately. Headwear with a pom-pom. Oh, is empanada spelled with an A? It must be a a tam o'shanter with a the little pom pom at the top. Vaccine molecule RNA. We all heard quite a lot about RNA vaccines over the last couple of years. Oh, here we go. REM, alarming to the teens, 1984. Looks like it ends in street, doesn't it? Oh, wow. This is also absolutely brilliant. I can't get over this. This is amazing. This is Nightmare on Elm Street. And so in this case, REM refers not to the band, but to the concept from which I assume the band took its name, which is rapid eye movement. Deep sleep, during which time you are dreaming. And the premise of Nightmare on Elm Street is that this serial killer, Freddy Krueger, can attack and murder you from within your dreams. And so these teen characters need to avoid falling into deep sleep and thus dreaming and therefore being exposed to Freddy Krueger. And so Nightmare on Elm Street can be described by the phrase REM, rapid eye movement, alarming to the teens. They are quite alarmed by this. This is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Accompanying. I'm not sure. And here we have shrubby areas. This is Nightmare on Elm Street, isn't it? Must be. Rhea with 4 Emmys. Rhea Perlman. Maybe it's not. Oh, no, it's a Nightmare on Elm Street. Sorry. I mistyped that. I forgot the A, and then I had a double N in here as a result. Yes, okay. I was wondering. I was thinking, this can't possibly be wrong, can it? But none of these crosses seem to make sense. So accompanying could be with. Shrubby areas could be what? Ends with an S, surely. Angry dog sounds could be snarls. Sticks, trompe-l'oeil, so fair amount of French in this puzzle. So trompe-l'oeil would be, I actually don't know the literal definition of this. It'll be something the eye. Is it sort of, it's probably something like trick the eye or something like that, or trompe. Yeah, I don't know, but it refers to an optical illusion. Anyway, sorry I can't translate that more precisely, but someone definitely will in the comments now. Angry dog sound. It could be grr. Oh, that's funny. So we have angry dog sounds, snarls, and then angry dogs sound, which is the same letters, but we've transposed the S from the end of sound to the possessive at the end of dog. Protected creature in the Congo Basin. It must be a gorilla. And it's funny, some finds in Fortnite, the video game, the very popular video game Fortnite, ammo. I've not played Fortnite, but it is no surprise that you can find ammo in it. So that makes sense. And sticks could be rods. And Louisiana blank, music show that helped launch Elvis's career. It looks like Louisiana Hayride to me. And then actress Cash of FX's You're the Worst. I don't know You're the Worst. Aya Cash? I don't know. I hope that's correct. It seems correct based on the crosses. And then shrubby areas. Oh, heaths, of course. Yes. I'm a 45-minute walk away maybe from Hampstead Heath, a relatively famous, large, wooded area in North London. They have massive calves. Some kind of big steer or cow or something. What is this? Or maybe some sort of athlete who really uses their leg muscles. I'm not sure. Account. And blank nuts. Oh, there's a dash, and N is capitalized, so this will be a brand name. So it looks like Grape Nuts, which is a dry breakfast cereal. World leader who appeared on a Time magazine cover 40 years after his death. Interesting. Lenin? Account. Oh, it could be a recital. You could give an account, a recital of something that happened to you. And then, yes, pina colada. It must be Lenin. I wonder what... It's interesting. I wonder what that... Is that tied to fall of the Soviet Union or something? I'll have to look that up. Sailing through could be acing a test, for instance. Part of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, ENGR maybe? What is this? The world's most expensive one, the Gurkha Royal Courtesan, costs over $1.3 million. It must be a cigar. Wow. And what's very interesting to me about the way this is phrased precisely is that it says the world's most expensive one costs over 1.3 million. It doesn't say cost. And if it said cost, it would suggest to me this was a one-time historical sale. When it says costs, it makes it sound like this is a present, a sort of ongoing present reality, which makes me wonder, is this something that is produced on an ongoing basis and you can buy these for this amount of money? It's not a one-off historical artifact. It's an actual produced item. I don't know. I could be misinterpreting why that says costs rather than cost, but I'll have to look that up. Anyway, it must be a cigar, and I think that's the end of the puzzle. Oh, sorry. So glaciers have massive caps. Right. Yes. Yes. When a glacier, when a bit of a glacier splits off, which unfortunately is happening more now than it has for much of the recent past, it's called calving. Sort of an interesting fact. Anyway, so this cigar, this astonishing cigar fact, is going to close out the puzzle, and that's it. And indeed, I think this puzzle was not too hard. I think I had one area where I moved through it a bit more slowly. And where was it? It was over here, maybe. This Leon Bridges and this bit of deception put on. I think there were some things over here that took me a bit more time. But generally speaking, I think I essentially marched straight through this puzzle. It really wasn't necessarily difficult. Of course, it still took longer than any of the weekday puzzles that were more difficult, but so it goes on a Sunday. But along the way, we had a series of truly incredible bits of anagram construction. I'll just run through them again because I'm so impressed. I think this is the most impressive one. I think this is incredible. Sea captain, robber, thief, anagrams, letters rearranged to Pirates of the Caribbean, the 2003 film. True fellow is a find, anagrams to It's a Wonderful Life from 1946. It's very funny. R.E. Town Fire One Night, anagrams to The Towering Inferno from 1974. Evil Streep Had a Ward, anagrams to The Devil Wears Prada from 2006. M. Ryan, What's Her Yell, anagrams to When Harry Met Sally in 1989. And finally, REM, Alarming to the Teens, anagrams to A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. Just amazing work by Sheldon Polanski. This is really something. What an amazing second appearance in the New York Times crossword, and absolutely just a virtuosic display of anagram construction, especially these two that span the full grid, Pirates of the Caribbean and A Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, already deciding you're going to fill the grid twice. I mean, once you've chosen once you've chosen to fill the grid, you need to find, well, actually, in each case, because there isn't even a central answer, which means that because of the symmetrical nature of New York Times crossword grids, almost all New York Times crossword grids, not all, but almost all, it means that you're going to need any length you choose, I suppose I'm saying, for any of these answers, you're going to need at least one other. So once you're putting one 21 cell answer in the grid, you're going to have to mirror it with another one, and the same goes for each of these. So that even further limits the possible choices of movie titles. You couldn't just find 6 arbitrary movie titles of any length. They have to divide up into these pairs of matching lengths, and he chose not to author. He could have authored the grid such that at least one of them would have been a one-off length. If he had constructed the grid such that the center, this middle across clue, spanned the full grid, he could have gotten away with not matching another full grid spanning answer, because it would have been the symmetry would have been around that answer, but chose not to. Chose to mirror each one. So very impressive. I'm incredibly taken by this. So well done. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. As I clearly keep saying, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Very, very nice puzzle. And again, not too hard, I would say. It came together relatively straightforwardly. So, all that said, let's discuss some clues from yesterday's puzzle. And let me just pull those up. I think there were several. Indeed, there were several. So, I misremembered the full name of the school Caltech, at which with which Einstein was associated. I referred to it as the California Polytechnic Institute or something like that. That is a totally different school. There is, in fact, a California Polytechnic Institute, but as Matt Rhodes points out in a comment, that is often called Cal Poly, whereas Caltech is the California Institute of Technology. Caltech is the one where the real and budding Einsteins are found. That is true. I'm sure Cal Poly is a good and respectable school in its own right, but Caltech is the sort of legendary one, the California Institute of Technology, and I misremembered which that was. Kathy Swope has a fun little bit of trivia here. Sabrina the Teenage Witch was a TV series that debuted in 1996 based on the Sabrina the Teenage Witch comic book series published by Archie Comics about the adventures of a fictional American teenager named Sabrina Spellman. It ran for 7 seasons. And the interesting thing is many people believe that the TV series Bewitched inspired the character of Sabrina Spellman. So the I don't know, was it 1960s, I think, maybe television sitcom Bewitched? Oh, it must have been, yes. But as Kathy points out, Sabrina came first. Bewitched premiered in 1964, but Sabrina first appeared in comic books in 1962. So there we go. Sabrina the Teenage Witch predating Bewitched. Chasmart explains that Chaz Graham, the NFL player, Shane Graham, what did I say? Chasmart said that Shane Graham, the NFL player referenced in yesterday's puzzle, with whom I was unaware, has played for the Saints, the Seahawks, the Bills, the Panthers, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Giants, the Patriots, the Redskins, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Texans, the Browns, the Steelers, the Falcons of the NFL, which is 15 teams. He did 2 stints with the Seahawks, Ravens, and Saints. That is outrageous. All right, Kathleen Quinn, this one, I don't understand where my brain went here. Kathleen Quinn said, Mitt Romney's running mate in 2012 was Paul Ryan, not Tim Ryan. Yes, indeed. Perhaps, she says, you were thinking of Tim Kaine, Hillary Clinton's running mate in 2016. Yes, I did somehow create a portmanteau of Tim Kaine and Paul Ryan, and I made Tim Ryan, who was not the running mate of either of those presidential candidates. So I don't know what was going on there. I certainly know all of these things. Add this to the long list of things I know that in the midst of solving a crossword on video, I just absolutely bungle. It's quite embarrassing. Anyway, Laura Sexton explains tatting is an art of creating lace with thread. There are 2 kinds, needle and shuttle. So that explains the association of shuttle and tat in yesterday's puzzle. This is not something I already knew. So thank you, Laura Sexton. Oh, and Laura also explains the Audubon Society was founded because of a campaign to protect egrets from being hunted for the long, elegant, feathery plumes to be used for ladies' hats, hence the egret logo of the Audubon Society. I also didn't know that, so thank you. And that's it. That's all of the information about yesterday's puzzle. Some things in there I definitely didn't know. Some things in there I really knew in theory but couldn't access. And as always, some really interesting extra context to fill out some of that knowledge. So thank you to everybody who writes in with these comments. I always find it incredibly fascinating. I'm sure the rest of you do as well. And thank you for joining me on today's puzzle. Of course, this was a long Sunday puzzle, so I'll wrap this video up now. But thank you to everybody who has backed the Patreon campaign at any level. I do very much appreciate that. I will get those mini puzzle speed solves up there as soon as possible. I just haven't had any time the last couple of days. It's just how it goes. But I will get it up. I will get it up very soon. So, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow for the certainly much quicker solve of the Monday puzzle. Another themed puzzle, but a much smaller grid, and presumably, possibly, an easier one. Should be. Anyway, I hope to see you then, but until that point, please do have an excellent remainder of your Sunday. Take care.